So yeah, so this is our first segment of Tech Talk! Yeah, that's it. This is my friend DJ. He plays in a bunch of bands, including the Number 12 Looks Like You, Dead Empires, Black Table, another band with me we're starting. So all kinds of fun stuff. We've known each other for a long time. And he's also my Vigier rep, because I endorse these guitars and use them all the time.
I'm the only Vigier rep in North America.
You're the guy.
Believe it or not, I'm it.
You're the guy. You got all the phone calls.
Email Vigier USA. This guy's getting back to you.
Maybe you shouldn't have said that.
Whatever.
All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about these guitars and the basses, because a lot of people I feel like don't know them. I honestly didn't know anything about them a few years ago, and then like multiple clients started bringing them in the same week, and I was like, what is this? And I was like, dude, these are the best, these things shred. I'd never heard of them. And then, funny enough, you did a review here with Gear Gods, and you brought them in.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
That never got published.
That's how I met you.
That's really funny.
Oh, that never got published?
No, we never finished it.
Well, we're gonna have to talk to them about that.
Yeah, Trey.
What the fuck did I do wrong?
And then, so you were kind enough to leave me like a couple loaners here, which I was like, whoa, that was pretty crazy for me. And it was insane playing them. Like, I literally never played a guitar that played that easily. And I'm not that good, so it was like super helpful for me. Just kind of like, you don't have to fight with it at all. It's just like it's crazy. So
yeah. Well, I mean, that is really the entire philosophy behind the guitars. Patrice Vigier started the company back in the late 70s, and his whole impetus was that he was frustrated with production guitars of that era. Like, trems that didn't stay in tune, necks that moved, just general sloppy construction and subpar parts and manufacturing processes. So since 1978 or 79, like, this is kind of where we've ended up after constant evolution. So the guitars, the biggest thing with the guitars is the neck construction. So I guess we should start with that.
yeah, pick it up.
Originally, all of our guitars were full carbon necks, and they were neck through body. So they were injection molded.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, they were injection molded, and you know, it's great. That's a really stable way to do things, but people didn't like the way it sounded. They didn't think they liked the way it sounded, even though it sounds cool. It feels a little weird if you're used to playing wooden necks, and it's super expensive, and there's a lot of waste. So like when you make a neck through body guitar, you leave a ton of wood on the floor.
Oh.
So
That's interesting too.
yeah, eventually we switched over to what's now called the 1090 neck system in 1988. So it's 10% carbon. This goes for all of our instruments, the Excaliburs like this, the GV, which we'll show in a minute, all the basses. It's 10% carbon and 90% maple. And so what that gives you is the best of both worlds. You get the feel and the tone and the look of nice maple, and then you get all the stability of a fully carbon neck. So there's actually no truss rods in any of our instruments. There never has been. There doesn't need to be one. And
What?
yeah, because you don't have to worry about it. So besides the carbon, the other big thing worth mentioning with the neck construction, and this goes for the bodies too, is that we source all of our wood in France and we air dry it for a minimum of 3 years before it becomes a guitar. So you end up with a really stable, super resonant instrument, and so already you're not going to run into a lot of the same problems that a kiln-dried guitar or a guitar that wasn't dried at all will have with warping due to temperature or humidity or whatever. And then you introduce the carbon, and it's like, bulletproof.
Damn, that's crazy. I was lucky enough to go over to the factory in France and see his process, and I was like already a mega fan, and then after I saw that in person, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, he actually has, I'll take this out, a whole like bunch of these. Just this one's got a little scuffed up from tour, but this was like a neck that they were working on, and then it didn't make it for some reason. Like, he had a whole bunch of these, and I was like, why? What's wrong with these? And he was like, you see, there's a little tiny like thing in there. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I was like, yeah, I can't. So this was dried and potentially was a.
It was dried. It was glued up. It was ready to be made into a GV.
Yeah.
And it never made it.
Never made it. Yeah. So like they don't.
They even get further than that. So this is actually pretty early in the process. So this is the maple that we use. This is a 3-piece maple neck. And we already went to the trouble of gluing all the pieces together for one, and cutting the channel for the carbon and getting it ready, we use these scallops. This is part of the process for gluing in the carbon, and whatever the imperfection was, we get even further than that. We'll have finished necks with painted headstocks and stuff, and then at that point, during final sanding or something, they'll realize something's wrong, something's not as stable as it could be, or there's something cosmetically flawed, and they just send it right down the.
That's crazy. I was amazed.
I've had like 4 half necks that I just give to dealers, so you can see the carbon, but they're finished. They have frets and everything.
Oh my god! And they just didn't make it.
Yeah,
but that's crazy. That just shows like how dedicated he is to his instrument craft, and like how I'm sure like a lot of manufacturers that would totally be fine. Like we're gonna put it through, no one will ever notice. It's gonna be painted.
Sure, you already bought the wood. You put in the time to do all the
3 years of storage and drying. I mean, that's cost money.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And like but it was like that same mentality for every step of the process.
Yeah.
They thought everything out. Like we're gonna go through all the features of this thing, because there actually is a lot of unique things to talk about. And it's not just like a standard like Tele or Strat or anything. It's like a hot rod. Everything on it's like tweaked out, like makes more sense. It's just especially for touring, it's like they're beasts. I know. I literally have taken this guitar and like thrown it, and it's survived. And it's actually in pretty good shape for being a touring guitar.
Yeah, this particular finish holds up really well on tour. This is our Tex Black finish.
Yeah, I love this finish.
But getting back to what I was saying earlier with Patrice just being frustrated with the state of guitars in the late 70s, so he just started picking away at different things that he didn't like. So the neck not being stable, and also you lose a lot of wood when you have to channel out for a truss rod. So you end up with a more stable, more resonant, stiffer neck, and that gives you more sustain.
The sustain, listen to it.
It gives you a brighter tone, and you never have to get a setup for the entire life of the guitar.
That's
you could
huge.
change strings, you could change tunings, you could change your location. You've toured all over the world with this, and it never moves, right?
Yeah, and you don't have to loosen the strings or anything when you fly.
You just throw it in the case or gig bag, and you're good to go.
Yeah. The thing that sold me about the neck too is like I have a bunch of guitars here, and like my biggest complaint is like from week, month to month, whatever. Like you just want to sit down and you get 5 minutes to play.
Yeah.
You pick up a guitar and you play it, and it feels like shit.
It's super frustrating.
And like it didn't
it's like, oh, well,
a
this
month
just
ago.
turned into a 2-hour project to set it back up.
Exactly.
And then it's not quite as the same as you remember it being.
Yeah. And that 5 minutes of maybe inspiration you had is just wasted. And this I don't have to worry about. It's just like boom, every time it's like perfect.
Yeah. So I guess we can start at the top.
Yeah, let's go
just
top
work
down.
our way down. So we'll go back to the back here. So anything with a non-locking trem comes with special oversized locking tuners. So a lot of other manufacturers will use the super light tuners, but actually having a little bit of mass at the headstock gives you a little bit more sustain. And also, like on stage, these are a lot easier to grab than the super thin ones.
Totally. I love those. Shallow, right?
Yeah, Schaller manufactures them, but they're 2-hour specs. So
Okay.
it's kind of
It's a proprietary kind of.
nice OEM thing. This is actually the anchor for our string tree system, which is called the Flex Retainer.
That's a fancy
I'll just show
name.
you over here.
Flex Retainer.
So one of the things when you're using a trem, when you dive bomb or pull up or anything, is that your string might get caught in the string tree and cause it to go either sharp or flat when it returns to 0. But we actually use the ball ends of strings, and these happen to be black, and it'll actually move with your string. It'll always come back to 0, and you never have to worry about it getting hung up. And the cool thing with these is you can actually adjust the tension. There's 2 little set screws, one on each one, so you can actually pull the ball end through, and if something breaks, you can just, next time you change your strings, just use a new one.
That's awesome.
Then over here, something we introduced just a few years ago, a lot of trems, when you're using them, there's like these weird phantom pinging noises behind the nut, and you might not hear it live, but when you're recording or something, you hear it, and then you can never unhear it. So this just dampens the strings behind the nuts. And,
and that little thing there is huge too. In the studio, man, constantly people will bring in like guitars that are like $2,000, $1,000, and they won't have anything there, and that can't cost like anything. It's super simple.
Just a little thinking.
Seriously, and anytime anyone's doing any kind of like palm muting type stuff, it rings past there, and I have to either figure out if it's back here, or if it's up there, or if it's the springs. But
Could be anything.
It kills it. So it's such a simple thing. I just wish every guitar company would do that.
Yeah. And here's another, these 2 things go hand in hand, our nut and our 0 fret. So you have the most recent 0 fret. This was introduced 2 years ago. So
what is the 0 fret? What is the point of it? A lot of people don't know. I didn't know.
So back in the day, they used like Chinese, Japanese, pretty much companies from all over the world would throw a 0 fret in because it was a lot easier and less expensive than to cut the nut properly.
Yeah.
So they would just throw the fret in, it would be level, all right, good to go. But the problem is the fret wears out, so it needs to be replaced, but you just super glued it in, and now you need a tech to do $100 worth of work on your $50 guitar.
Sick.
So with us, Patrice saw that, and it's not an attempt to cheap out. What he wants to do is provide a super hard surface for the string to actually glide over when you're using the trem again, or when you're bending, or whatever. So when you play an open string, you get the same tone.
Right.
When you're bending, whatever. And since there's no truss rod or anything like that, this just ensures perfect setup across the board with minimal work.
That's
And
cool.
the reason why we need a super hard surface for the string to go over is because our nuts are all Teflon. So when you're using the trem, there's no binding. Like if you use a bone nut or something, unless it's cut really perfectly, there's always going to be some kind of grab and getting back to zero is tough. So this is Teflon. And the cool thing about both of these is that they pop right in and out. There's no glue. They're held in by just really good cuts and the strings. So
I've known on tour like actually smash it on something and destroy the nut. So like you just have a new one, just pop it right out and you just pop it right in. And it's good. It stays locked in.
Yeah, and there's a little nub in there. So when you pull it out, there's like a little anchor. And so if you want to change string gauges, this is I don't know what you have on here, but
just 10 to 46.
Yeah, they come with 9 to 46s, and you can put 10 to 46s in the stock nut. But if you want to go to 12s or 11s or whatever the hell you want to put on there, you pop out the nut, you give us a call.
Hello, Ghostbusters.
You buy a new nut for like, I think it's $15 plus shipping from France, and that's all you have to do for a setup.
Cool.
And the Zero Fret's the same thing. They do tend to wear out, even though they're stainless steel. They, there's constant pressure on them, so you gotta replace them every once in a while. So you take a guitar pick, pop it out, pop a new one in, you're ready to go.
That's cool. And they're individualized per string, right?
Mm-hmm. Now they're all sectioned, so instead of having to buy the entire thing, you can buy just a bunch of G ones, and then because your G keeps cutting through the nut on tour or whatever, so you just pop that one out, pop a new one in.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk about the frets too, because for me that's like a huge thing for this guitar. I had never played a guitar with stainless steel frets before, and I know people say it feels like you're playing on glass, but that's like the most accurate description I could think of. It just, when you bend, and I never knew this because I'm not like a super sensitive player, but when you're bending on regular frets, there is a lot of like rubbing, and it's like kind of slows you down a little, but on these things it's like it almost happens so much faster. You don't have to use that much effort to get it to do where you want to go with it.
Well, the reason why that is because nickel frets tend to wear a lot faster, so even if you don't see it, there's a lot of micro abrasions on there, and they're actually grabbing the string, and you can feel that even if you can't see it. Stainless steel frets tend to last 10 times as long as a regular nickel fret.
Wow.
And so they're just not getting the same abrasions, and they're just not getting as chopped up as they normally would if they were nickel.
Cool.
All of our guitars come stock with stainless steel frets.
Damn, that's nice.
So, yeah, you never have to worry
it's
about
not
them.
like an additional
I mean, not
option.
never, but yeah,
Cool.
stock. Strap buttons.
That's huge too. Don't underestimate that. That's massive.
Yeah, so you can see there's a little collar here. And first of all, that's so that the strap button isn't like hanging over gross off the edges because they're all made flat.
Yeah.
But actually inside the butt and inside the upper horn, there is a countersunk brass casing. So the strap buttons are actually, planted in the brass casing, so they never strip out.
Mm-hmm.
So you can still change them if you need to, although you do have to use special shallower ones.
Right.
But
actually, I have done that on this one too.
Yeah, they never strip out. You never have to worry about them. And if you have been on tour and you rock out very hard, you've probably lost a couple of guitars to bad straps or bad strap locks. So you never have to worry about that.
That's huge, man. Like you could literally sit there and just like pull as hard as you can, and that thing is never coming out.
Yeah, you'll break it before it comes out.
Yeah, totally. And I know just from being in the band that I play in that's huge. I've seen plenty of guitars like the screw just pull out after so many shows.
You're stuffing matchsticks in or some fucking bullshit just to get through the next show. And it's never as nice, and then you just fuck up your nice guitar.
Totally. Yeah, you don't really get like a second chance with that. If that comes out when you're playing, a lot of times it's gone.
It's pretty gone.
It's out there.
Yeah. So we use pickups from all different manufacturers. You happen to have, I think,
there's DiMarzio
DiMarzio's in here.
Yeah.
But we use DiMarzio's, Duncan's. We're working with a new company that we haven't quite finalized yet, and then a bunch of the guitars come with
Amber, right?
Well, that's another company, Amber, which is just a small German company, and they make great stuff. It's the cool thing about the pickups is I joined the company right after the GV was introduced, which is the single cutaway guitar we'll show in a sec. And Patrice blind tested some insane number of pickups, like 65 sets of pickups, and so he made the dudes keep putting them in and taking them out of the same guitar, which is funny to think about, but I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's the best pickup that he heard for this guitar, that's what's going in stock.
Yeah.
Of course, you could change them out, whatever, like you have. But you know, the ones that everything we do it because we think it's the best. It's not because we have some relationship or. Although we do usually have good relationships with everybody, it's not, it's nothing political or anything.
Yeah, I did not like the ones that were in there, but like I honestly wanted something obnoxious in color.
Well, there you go.
So these were rare. And then I just went through the DiMarzio line. I was like, oh, Steve Vai, he's got pretty good tone. Yeah, sure, I'll cop that.
Most of the guitars have 5-way switches instead of just 3-ways, so you can get really good split tones. And also they come 90% of the time they have super switches instead of a regular 5-way switch. So you can do all kinds of crazy shit if you want. Your bridge pickup out of phase and your neck pickup on full blast, like have fun. If you want them both split or whatever, you can go nuts. So the most unique part about the bridge is the needle bearing system that attaches it to the post. So instead of just a typical knife edge, there's needle bearings.
Okay, so redo that one.
And then this is our proprietary Vigier 2011 trem. That's the model name. It's been standard on the guitar since 2011.
Okay.
And this is another thing that Patrice just had a point of contention with other manufacturers.
Why is this so good? Because I know it rules.
Yeah.
But they don't.
The coolest thing about this is, by far, is the mounting system. So you'll notice that it looks a lot, if you really look close right here, it looks a lot different than your typical trem.
Yeah.
So these are actually needle bearings, and they're mounted on the studs, like, these are your regular studs, but these are actually needle bearings, and what that means is that they never wear out, they don't fall off the post when you change strings, they won't slide, they won't do anything, and they're generally more stable, so coming back to zero is more reliable.
With less friction, right? There's
no friction whatsoever. I think they tested these particular bearings in the factory with like a drill or something. They got them up to 10,000 RPMs before they failed. So you can't use it fast enough. Like
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we also do the Floyd style. It's with the same technology. It just also has a locking nut and has the typical Floyd style bridge. But honestly, unless you're playing,
unless you're really going for it, then this is more than
even
sufficient.
then, like this is perfectly fine with all this other stuff that we've put together. Like this is good for like 99.8% of applications.
Yeah, I really like these. Are these like stainless steel too? The roller bearings or whatever that is. Like,
I actually don't know what those are.
Because those are nice because they never get like caught and they don't break.
But
this guitar has never broken a string live. Never, not once.
That's awesome.
Which is insane because I that's when, especially in the kind of music I played, it's like a given every time. But I mean, granted, we change it every show, but still, like, it doesn't matter. They would still break, but this one has not broken one. I don't know. Like, it's been crazy, so I've been really lucky with that.
Yeah, these little rollers are nice. This is manufactured by Schaller, so if you saw, like, they have a bridge that looks an awful lot like this, so that was, like, the best type of bridge that we could do, and then we did our own thing with the, with the needle bearings. So that's pretty much the overview. Like I said earlier, the body is the same as the neck, where we air dry it for like 3 years. Then all the bodies are 2 pieces instead of 1 piece. So that actually, having that glue seam down the middle adds a lot of stability to the guitar. So what we do is it sits for 3 years. We glue the 2 pieces together. It sits usually because we're so backlogged on instruments, it usually ends up sitting for another year along with the neck.
Yeah. So they both dry for that amount of time, both pieces.
Yeah, once it gets glued, because sometimes also with the necks we also offer the fretlesses, which are crazy, and rosewood boards, so that has to get glued on. It ends up sitting for a long time before it gets used.
I'm just like thinking about that from like a business standpoint. So you have to make guitars like for the future.
Yeah, that's the really frustrating thing about it.
Insane.
And like people are like, well, why can't you just do this or do that? It's like, well, because your guitar, even though you ordered it in April, was put in storage in April of 2015 or 2014. So like when people ask for options, it's a frustrating thing, but it's also an amazing thing because it's amazing, obviously, because of all the advantages you get. But it's frustrating because we can't just that's like customers and artists and everybody's favorite thing. Just do this, do that. It's like this process started before we had this conversation, and unfortunately, like we can only do so much. So. personally, the way I feel about that stuff is like it's really cool to have a super totally custom guitar, and I love that you can do that with other companies. But at the same time, like I wouldn't want to tell Enzo Ferrari how to build a car.
Totally.
And they have options, but they don't have that many options. It's like colors usually.
Yeah,
and like with us, it's like colors and hardware. It's like the color of your car and the shape and color of your wheels. Well, you got the color of your guitar and the color of your hardware.
Yeah.
Choose different fingerboards.
Totally. Yeah, like I asked specifically for black hardware on my stuff, and they were nice enough to hook me up with that, just because I'm an anti-chrome kind of dude. But
yeah, I don't blame you. You can look on my bass. The chrome is just destroyed. But this bass is another good example. This thing has been. I've been playing.